Marcus Aurelius Quintus, patrician of Rome, in the year 87 AD. Greetings, citizens and friends across the ages. I am Marcus Aurelius Quintus, and today I must share with you one of our most sacred, yet perhaps puzzling to your modern minds, traditions concerning our beloved children. You see, in Rome we believe that a child's first hair carries both blessing and burden, and only through proper ritual can we ensure their protection from the invisible forces that surround us all. If you find these ancient customs as fascinating as I do, I encourage you to join our community of history enthusiasts by subscribing to hear more untold stories from the heart of the empire. Just yesterday I witnessed my neighbor Gaius Flavius prepare his young son, little Titus, for his first tonsure. The boy, barely 3 summers old, sat wide-eyed as his mother, Livia, carefully arranged the ritual implements: the sharp bronze razor, the consecrated oils, and most importantly, the golden box that would house his precious locks. The child's grandmother, old Claudia, had traveled from her villa outside the city specifically for this ceremony, carrying with her the family's ancient ritual scrolls written in the old Latin script that few can still read. The preparations had begun 3 days prior, with purification rituals for the entire household. Every family member had to abstain from wine, avoid arguments, and maintain ritual cleanliness. Even the household slaves were required to bathe daily and wear fresh tunics, for their spiritual state could influence the ceremony's success. I observed how Livia had commissioned special incense from the priests of Apollo, frankincense mixed with herbs gathered during the full moon from the sacred grove on the Palatine Hill. Why must we shave the child's head completely, you might wonder? Allow me to explain what our ancestors understood about the mystical properties of hair and the dangers that lurk in the spiritual realm. Knowledge passed down from the earliest days when Romulus first established our great city. In our Roman tradition, a child's first hair is believed to contain their connection to the underworld, those shadowy places from which all souls emerge at birth. This hair, soft and innocent as it appears, actually serves as a bridge between the world of spirits and our earthly realm. The longer it remains uncut, the more vulnerable the child becomes to malevolent influences that might follow this ethereal thread back to claim the young soul. Our greatest scholars and augurs have studied this phenomenon for generations. Marcus Porcius Cato the Elder himself wrote extensively about the spiritual dangers of uncut infant hair in his lost work De Re Familiari. The philosopher Seneca once observed a child in the marketplace whose hair had grown long and wild, noting how the boy seemed to attract misfortune, spilled wine, stumbling slaves, even birds that flew too close and startled him. When the family finally performed the proper tonsure, these incidents ceased entirely. I remember my own father, Lucius Quintus, telling me how his grandmother once witnessed a child who was not properly tonsured fall prey to strange illnesses and nightmares. The boy would wake screaming about shadowy figures pulling at his hair, trying to drag him into dark places. The local augurs declared that evil spirits had used the child's uncut hair as a pathway to torment the innocent soul. The family had delayed the ceremony due to an ill omen. A black cat had crossed their threshold on the appointed day, but this delay nearly cost them their son. The emergency ritual required not just the standard head shaving, but extensive purification ceremonies. 3 white doves were sacrificed to Diana, patroness of children. The household was fumigated with burning sage and cedar. Every doorway was marked with protective symbols drawn in blessed chalk. Only after performing this elaborate emergency tonsure, accompanied by prayers that lasted from dawn until dusk, did the child recover. But the cost was enormous. The family spent nearly a year's income on the necessary rituals and offerings. But the superstition runs deeper than mere protection from spirits. We Romans believe that a child's first hair also absorbs negative energy from their surroundings. The anger of parents, the jealousy of siblings, the worries of the household, even the curses of envious neighbors. Like a sponge drawing in water, this virgin hair soaks up all the emotional tumult of the family environment. I have seen children whose hair seemed to darken and lose its luster when their parents quarreled frequently, or whose locks became brittle and thin when household finances grew strained. Our wisest matrons understand this principle well. During pregnancy, expectant mothers avoid places of conflict. Law courts, gladiatorial training grounds, even certain temples where heated theological debates occur. They know that strong emotions, whether positive or negative, can imprint themselves upon the unborn child's future hair, making the eventual tonsure even more crucial for spiritual cleansing. The timing of the ceremony is also critical. Most families choose the child's third birthday, believing this allows enough hair to grow for a meaningful offering while still protecting the child during their most vulnerable years. Some wealthy patrician families consult the Sibylline books to determine the most auspicious date, sometimes waiting months for the perfect alignment of celestial bodies. The ceremony must never be performed during eclipses, when the god's attention is elsewhere, or during the Lemuria festival, when restless spirits roam the earth seeking vessels to inhabit. The ritual itself must be performed with utmost precision. The family gathers at dawn, when the veil between worlds is thinnest and the gods are most attentive to our supplications. The child is bathed in water blessed by the Vestal Virgins, then dried with linen woven by unmarried daughters of the household. Every strand must be removed, not merely cut, but shaved down to the scalp, for even the smallest remaining hair could serve as an anchor for unwanted supernatural attention. The preparation of the ritual space requires careful attention to detail. The ceremony typically takes place in the family's atrium, beneath the opening that connects the household to the heavens above. Fresh flower petals are scattered on the floor in patterns that honor the four cardinal directions and the protective household gods. Braziers burn continuously, filled with aromatic woods and resins that please the divine spirits while masking any scents that might attract malevolent entities. Before the ceremony begins, the family's most respected elder, usually the paterfamilias or the eldest grandmother, recites the lineage of the child, connecting them formally to their ancestors and invoking the protection of those who have passed beyond the veil. This recitation can last nearly an hour for noble families with extensive genealogies, but it ensures that the child enters the ritual under the watchful eyes of countless protective spirits. I recall attending the tonsure of Senator Lucius Cornelius's grandson, where the family genealogy stretched back 12 generations to the legendary King Numa Pompilius himself. As each ancestor's name was spoken, a small offering was placed on the household altar, a grain of frankincense, a drop of honeyed wine, a single flower petal. By the ceremony's end, the altar was laden with hundreds of tiny tributes, creating a magnificent display that honored both the child and his illustrious heritage. As the sun rose higher over the 7 hills of Rome, I watched Gaius carefully position his son on the ritual stool. The boy's mother had spent the previous evening weaving protective charms into his sleeping tunic, and now she whispered ancient prayers learned from her own mother. Little Titus, to his credit, remained remarkably still, perhaps sensing the solemnity of the occasion, or perhaps calmed by the rhythmic chanting that had begun before dawn and continued to echo softly through the household. The extended family had gathered from across the city and beyond. Gaius's brother had traveled from Gaul, where he served as a military tribune, bringing with him soil from the sacred battlefield where their father had won his first victory. Their sister had come from her husband's estate in Campania, carrying water from a spring blessed by the nymphs. Even distant cousins who rarely visited the city had made the journey, understanding that missing such a ceremony would bring dishonor to the family name and potentially curse their own children. The bronze razor, blessed the night before at the temple of Janus, gleamed in the morning light. The priest of Janus had personally consecrated this blade, along with similar razors for 17 other families conducting ceremonies that week. The blessing ritual required the priest to fast for 3 days and maintain perfect ritual purity. No contact with blood, no proximity to death, no consumption of foods that might cloud his spiritual vision. Gaius's hands, though steady from years of military service in the Germanic campaigns, trembled slightly as he began the delicate work. One wrong move could wound the child, and any blood spilled during the ceremony would be seen as a terrible omen, a sign that the gods rejected the offering and the child would face great misfortune. I watched as old Claudia guided her son's movements, her own hands spotted with age, but steady with decades of experience. She had performed this ritual for her own 6 children and had assisted with the ceremonies of countless grandchildren and great-grandchildren. "Feel the blade's edge before each stroke," she whispered to Gaius. "The metal will tell you if it grows dull or if the gods withdraw their blessing." Indeed, experienced family elders claim they can sense changes in the blade's spiritual energy throughout the ceremony. A razor that becomes difficult to control or seems to resist the skin is thought to indicate divine displeasure with the family's conduct or the ceremony's preparation. But this is where our Roman ingenuity truly shines. We have developed specific techniques passed down through generations of careful observation and divine inspiration to ensure the ritual's success. The child's scalp is first massaged with olive oil infused with herbs from the sacred groves of Diana. This particular oil requires months of preparation. The olives must be harvested during the new moon, pressed by virgin priestesses, and aged in amphora buried beneath temple floors. The herbs, rosemary for remembrance, sage for wisdom, lavender for peace, are gathered according to ancient schedules that honor the cycles of the earth and stars. This preparation not only softens the hair and skin, but also invokes the goddess's protection over the young one. Diana, as patroness of childbirth and childhood, holds special dominion over this ceremony. Many families commission small silver amulets bearing her image to be worn by the child during the ritual, believing this provides an additional layer of divine protection. The razor is drawn across the head in specific patterns, never randomly, but following the cardinal directions, beginning with the east, the realm of new beginnings and the rising sun, and ending with the west, the domain of completion and rest. Each stroke must be deliberate and purposeful. The eastern section represents the child's future potential, the southern section their strength and vitality, the western section their wisdom and eventual peaceful transition to the afterlife, and the northern section their connection to family and tradition. Between each directional section, the razor is cleansed with blessed water, and the family pauses for prayers specific to that realm. The eastern prayers call upon Aurora, goddess of dawn, to bless the child with bright prospects. The southern prayers honor Mars, asking for courage and strength. The western prayers appeal to Terminus, god of boundaries and endings, requesting that the child know when to stop, when to rest, and when to pass wisdom to the next generation. The northern prayers invoke the Lares and Penates, the household gods who will protect the child throughout their life within the family structure. Each strand of hair that falls is caught on a ceremonial cloth of white wool, specially woven for this purpose by the women of the household during the winter months when the spirits are quiet and the work can proceed without supernatural interference. The wool comes from sheep raised on sacred pastures, fed only on grasses that grow near temples and springs. Nothing must touch the ground, for the earth spirits might claim these precious locks for their own dark purposes. I watched as Livia carefully gathered every wisp, her movements precise and reverent, occasionally pausing to mutter protective incantations when particularly large locks fell. "The hair contains the child's essence," Gaius explained to his young daughter, who observed with solemn curiosity, "We must treat it as we would treat the child himself, with love, respect, and protective care. Once the head is completely bare, a process that took nearly 2 hours for little Titus, whose thick, curly hair required extra care, the true magic begins. The collected hair is divided into 3 portions, representing the 3 fates who weave the threads of human destiny: Clotho, who spins the thread of life; Lachesis, who measures its length; and Atropos, who cuts it when death arrives. This division must be performed by the child's mother, for only she possesses the spiritual connection necessary to ensure each portion receives the proper essence. The first portion, representing Clotho and new beginnings, is burned as an offering to Jupiter, the king of gods, requesting his protection over the child's future. The burning takes place in a special bronze brazier that has been passed down through Gaius's family for 8 generations. The smoke carries our prayers directly to the heavens, and the way it rises, straight up or swirling, provides omens about the child's fate. Master augurs can read these smoke patterns like written scrolls, interpreting every curl and drift as messages from the divine realm. During Titus's ceremony, the smoke rose in a perfect spiral, which old Claudia interpreted as a sign that the boy would achieve great heights through his own efforts rather than inherited privilege. She pointed out how the spiral widened as it ascended, suggesting that his influence would grow throughout his life, touching ever more people in ever-widening circles. The second portion, sacred to Lachesis, who determines life's length and quality, is buried beneath the threshold of the family home. This creates a spiritual anchor, ensuring that no matter how far the child might travel in life, to the distant provinces, to foreign lands, even to the very edges of the known world, they will always have a connection to their ancestral hearth. Many wealthy families bury this hair along with small gold coins, precious stones, and written prayers sealed in bronze cylinders, believing that the child's fortunes will grow as surely as new hair will sprout from their head. The burial spot becomes sacred to the family. Children are taught never to step directly on it, and it is marked with small stones arranged in patterns that honor the household gods. During times of family crisis, illness, financial troubles, or threats from enemies, family members often kneel at this spot to pray, believing that the buried hair maintains a connection to the child's protective spirits. The third and most crucial portion, belonging to Atropos, who determines fate's ultimate course, is placed in the golden or silver box I mentioned earlier. This container becomes a protective talisman for the child, often worn around their neck during dangerous journeys, or kept in their sleeping chamber for nightly protection. The box itself is a work of art. Gaius had commissioned his from the finest craftsmen in the Subura, decorating it with symbols of protection: the all-seeing eye of Jupiter, the protective wings of Mercury, the nurturing hands of Juno, and intricate patterns that represent the child's astrological chart, calculated at the moment of birth. But here is where Roman superstition becomes truly fascinating. We believe that this boxed hair retains a connection to the child throughout their entire life, growing stronger rather than weaker as the years pass. The hair serves as a spiritual anchor, a piece of the child's essence preserved at the moment of greatest purity and potential. Learned philosophers debate whether this connection operates through the realm of the gods or through natural forces not yet understood by mortal minds, but all agree on its reality and power. If the child falls ill, the hair is removed from its container and burned, while specific incantations are recited. Different prayers for different ailments, all carefully preserved in family records passed down through generations. Fever requires prayers to Apollo, god of healing, and the sun. Digestive troubles call for appeals to Ceres, goddess of grain and nourishment. Wounds and injuries demand the intervention of Mars, who understands both the giving and healing of wounds from battle. If the child faces danger in battle or during travel, the hair can be offered to appropriate gods in exchange for divine intervention. Before departing for military service, young men often burn a few strands while praying to Mars for courage, to Mercury for safe travel, and to Fortuna for favorable circumstances. Merchants embarking on dangerous trading expeditions perform similar rituals, sometimes adding prayers to Neptune if their journey involves sea travel. I have personally witnessed the power of this practice during my own military service in Germania. A young centurion named Marcus Flavius, son of a prominent family from the Aventine Hill, carried his childhood hair in a silver amulet around his neck, a piece crafted by Syrian artisans and blessed by the priests of Mithras. During a particularly fierce battle against the Germanic tribes, a barbarian spear struck him directly in the chest. By all rights, the blow should have pierced his heart and ended his life instantly. Yet when we examined him after the battle, we found the spear point had somehow deflected away from his vital organs, leaving only a shallow wound across his ribs. The amulet showed a fresh dent where the spear had struck, but Marcus survived without serious injury. His preserved hair, protected for nearly 20 years since his childhood ceremony, had fulfilled its protective purpose at the moment of greatest need. The dent in the silver became a badge of honor, proof of divine favor that elevated his status among the legions. Similar stories circulate throughout the empire. A merchant's daughter in Alexandria credits her preserved hair with protecting her caravan from bandits when mysterious fog concealed their passage through dangerous territory. A senator's son claims his childhood locks warned him in a dream to avoid a particular theater on the day it collapsed, killing dozens of spectators. Whether these tales reflect divine intervention or mere coincidence, they reinforce our faith in the ceremony's importance. The ceremony concludes with anointing the child's newly bare head with sacred oils and wrapping it in soft cloth dyed with purple, the color of divinity and imperial power. The oil itself is a complex mixture: olive oil from groves sacred to Minerva, essence of roses from the gardens of Venus, and a drop of balsam imported from the distant lands beyond Egypt, where the phoenix is said to build its nest of aromatic woods. For the next 7 days, a number sacred to Apollo and the cycles of celestial bodies, the child's head must remain covered, protecting the vulnerable scalp as new hair begins to grow. During this period, the family maintains ritual purity, avoiding contact with death, abstaining from certain foods, and performing daily prayers at the household altar. Visitors are limited to immediate family members and close friends whose own spiritual cleanliness can be vouched for by the family elders. This new hair, we believe, will be pure and spiritually clean, free from any contamination from the other world or the accumulated troubles of infancy. As it grows, parents carefully observe its color, texture, and growth patterns, believing these provide insights into the child's developing character and future prospects. Hair that grows quickly suggests an energetic, ambitious nature. Hair that curls naturally indicates artistic or intellectual gifts. Hair that remains perfectly straight suggests a direct, honest personality that will achieve success through straightforward effort rather than cunning. Family and friends who witness the ceremony often bring gifts, not just material offerings, but blessings and good wishes that become magically bound to the child through the ritual. Children who undergo proper tonsure are said to grow stronger, wiser, and more fortunate than those whose hair is merely trimmed in the Greek fashion, or worse still, left entirely uncut in the barbarous manner of northern tribes. The gifts themselves follow ancient traditions. Aunts and uncles typically bring small pieces of jewelry blessed by priests, rings that will protect against poison, bracelets that guard against accidents, or pendants that ensure favorable dreams. Grandparents often contribute family heirlooms, Knives that have protected the family for generations, coins from distant lands that bring prosperity, or small statues of household gods carved by skilled ancestors. Friends of the family bring offerings that reflect their own expertise and calling. A blacksmith might contribute a tiny hammer blessed for strength and skill. A physician offers herbs that promote health and ward off disease. A teacher brings scrolls containing protective prayers or educational materials that will benefit the child in future years. Even slaves are encouraged to participate, often bringing simple gifts made with their own hands, carved wooden toys, woven cloth, or preserved foods prepared with special care. During little Titus's ceremony, I observed the profound impact these collective blessings had on the family's spirits. As each guest approached the child and offered their gift along with spoken wishes for his future, the very air seemed to shimmer with accumulated good intentions. Old Claudia later commented that she had never felt such powerful spiritual energy at a tonsure ceremony, attributing this to the genuine affection so many people held for young Titus and his parents. The ceremony's conclusion brings a feast that can last from midday until well after sunset, depending on the family's wealth and social connections. This is not mere celebration, but a continuation of the ritual process. By sharing food and drink, the assembled community creates bonds of mutual obligation and protection around the child. Everyone who partakes becomes, in a spiritual sense, partially responsible for the child's welfare throughout life. As I concluded observing little Titus's ceremony, I reflected on how our ancestors' wisdom continues to protect Roman children across the empire, from the grand villas of the Palatine Hill to the modest apartments of the Subura, from the frontier outposts of Britannia to the bustling ports of Alexandria. The practice adapts to local circumstances. Military families might time the ceremony around campaign schedules, merchant families might coordinate with trading seasons, and families serving in distant provinces might modify certain elements to accommodate local customs. But the essential spiritual purposes remain constant. The ceremony represents something profound about Roman character. Our refusal to leave anything to chance when it comes to protecting our children. While other cultures rely solely on amulets or prayers, we Romans create an entire system of interlocking safeguards. The hair preserved in blessed containers, the ancestral spirits invoked through genealogical recitations, the community bonds forged through shared participation, the divine favor earned through proper ritual observance. All of these elements work together to surround each child with multiple layers of protection. Furthermore, the ceremony serves practical social functions beyond its spiritual purposes. It formally introduces the child to the extended community, establishing relationships that will prove valuable throughout their life. Young Titus, for example, met distant relatives for the first time during his tonsure, forming connections that might later provide opportunities for education, marriage, or business partnerships. Tomorrow, when you see a Roman child with a perfectly shaved head gleaming like polished marble in the Mediterranean sun, you'll understand that you're witnessing not barbarism or mere fashion, but one of our most profound expressions of parental love and divine faith. The strange custom that might seem harsh to foreign eyes, Greek philosophers often mock our primitive superstitions, while Germanic barbarians consider us weak for feminizing our children, is actually our most tender gesture of protection, ensuring that our children enter the world spiritually pure and divinely defended. And if you found this glimpse into Roman family life as intriguing as young Titus found his reflection in the bronze mirror, consider sharing this knowledge with others who might appreciate the profound wisdom of our ancient traditions. What other mysteries of Roman life would you have me reveal? The secrets of our marriage ceremonies, the hidden meanings behind our gladiatorial games, the truth about our household gods? Each holds stories that might surprise you about the true nature of Roman civilization. Marcus Aurelius Quintus resides in Rome with his wife and 3 children, all of whom underwent the sacred tonsure with great ceremony and divine blessing.